that the eye doctor?
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Yay! Oh, come on, you can do better.
So tonight we have a great, fantastic meeting tonight. It's a joint meeting between the Garden State JUG, Mike, and the New York JavaSIG. So welcome to our New Jersey colleagues and to our New York colleagues. And certainly we'd like to thank Bank of New York Mellon for hosting us tonight and for the pizza. So thank you very much, Bank of New York. Thank you, Chandra. Thank you, Rodrigo. So tonight we're celebrating a bunch of things. Actually, Mike, you want to say something about the Garden State?
Oh, sure. Okay, real quick. Yep. Good evening, everybody, and echo what Frank said about thanks for coming out tonight and spending your time with us. Garden State Group was originally called the ACG and NYJavaSIG Java Users Group back in 2001. So Frank, you've been doing 28 years, and we're coming up on 23. So it's a pretty good run for for these two jugs. So, but yeah, we rebranded as the Garden State Group in 2020. We're our own nonprofit, and we've had a whole bunch of great speakers ever since we've come with the new branding for our group. We meet in Madison, New Jersey. We're happy to be here in New York to co-host this special event. So thanks a bunch.
Thanks. You know why I've been doing it for 28 years? Because 28 years ago, we didn't have user group meetings. We didn't have technical user group meetings. And an executive from a very large computer company in the Valley told me there weren't any real programmers in New York. And it sort of got, the WTF bubble went over my head. So I decided to start a Sun user group and subsequently the Java user group to say, like, guess what? There are programmers in this area. So that's what I've been doing for 28 years. So let me introduce Heather Vancura. So Heather runs the JCP. Everyone knows the JCP, of course. And we're celebrating an anniversary.
25 years.
25 years for the JCP. And along with Java 21, it's a lot of 20.
Java 21 launched on Tuesday.
Yeah, awesome. So let me turn everything over to Heather.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, thanks for hosting us. And we did do our 20-year anniversary here in this very same building. So, and coincidentally, if no one knows this, I know Frank probably knows this, but when the JCP first started, it was kicked off in New York City at the Java for Business conference run by Sun Microsystems. So it seems an appropriate place to celebrate the anniversary. I made a quick video, so I was going to pull that up so you could watch it. We were testing it, so you probably saw little glimpses of it already, but I have to share my screen so we can see it. And while I'm doing that, maybe we can have the panelists start to get ready to come up here. Sound good? Okay. So I got to share my screen and podium. Where's the podium? Okay. Podium. There's the podium. Preview. Podium. Perfect. Okay. JCP through the years. Here we go. Oh, it's got very light audio. Sorry. Here we go. That's good.
Oh.
At Twitter, we have to take a picture tomorrow at BNY Mellon. Cake. I mean, you gotta have cake. Zoom. So it's a little bit chronological. So we're gonna have the 20 years was when we were here in New York. Yeah. I hope we have one of the life-size cake from last time we were here in New York. No pointers. There's the cake. Right here in this building. I know, it's like, yeah. Live Dukes. And now it's 25 years. So yeah, I think that's the end. Thank you. So everybody take your pictures tonight. We have to add to this tonight with our pictures. So a few different things we're going to do tonight. So we're going to start with a panel. So we have some of our executive committee members here tonight. So I invite the panelists to come and assemble themselves up front. And then we're going to do a presentation by Dimitri from Bellsoft, who's going to share with us more about what's to come in Java 21. So we're going to start with the panel, and you can either maybe grab a chair or just stand, or a couple people can sit in the two chairs. Someone should sit in the two chairs, though.
Nobody wants. Whoever speaks sits down.
I'm sure. Well, I was going to put some slides up.
Whatever.
Okay, let me put my slides up here.
Family here.
No one. Okay, who's going to sit there? Come on, guys. All right, Alex, sit down. You need to sit down.
May I ask a question? I left my bag somewhere. It's a great 13 inches somewhere.
Okay, Bruno, Rodrigo, come over here on this side, please. Can you come over here? Yeah, has to be balanced.
That was going to be a raffle.
Okay, we do have a raffle item, by the way. So at the end, we're gonna raffle this off. So first swag of the 25-year anniversary. So we always do a new Duke personality for different events. So this is a new one. Java 25. It seems like there's something in here, but as far as I know, it's just the backpack. But let me just double check. Oh yeah, it's just a high quality backpack. Okay. And we also have t-shirts at the end, so don't leave without your t-shirt. So we have a few. So just so you know, when you pick out the shirt you want, the women's are the V-necks, and then the crew necks are the unisex sizing. So there's a few of these V-necks. So this is women's sizing. Did you want to say something? Yeah, for a minute we do.
For a minute, okay. Because you can't see them.
Okay. All right, so let's see. Someone needs to sit down.
I thought you said Alex. Sit
I
down
did. I
before.
told Alex to sit down because
Okay.
you're blocking the screen. You need to sit down. Okay, perfect. All right, see? So I'm kind of particular. I mean, I have standards. I have to have a symmetry, see? So I finally got it. Okay. All right.
That's why you had a standards organization.
I Okay, so I had just a few slides and then I'm going to actually stop sharing. So we're here tonight. We're celebrating 25 years of community collaboration, but we're also celebrating some other milestones. Just like Frank said, we're celebrating 28 years of Java and Java 21 that will be available next week. And I just want to just as a reminder to just set the context. And since a lot of us have been involved with Java for a long time, I think you'll agree with me when I say that we have kept a lot of things constant. So these values, as I like to call them, these do remain consistent throughout the time of Java, and we continue to focus on these things as we innovate on the platform. And I think, you know, one of the things that's throughout this and which is really unique about Java is the community and the way that you can participate and contribute your feedback into the evolution of the platform. And as we move the platform forward, we continue to see that Java continues to grow in terms of the #1 language with active JVMs and cloud-based GVMs. That number continues to grow. And you're probably following some of my work with Java in education. Some of you asked me about it, but some of the work that we've done in that effort shows that Java is also the most highly paid skilled job. So if you have a job working with Java, you're probably being paid more than other developers that have different skills. And it's also the #1 in-demand skill for employers. So this remains the same as we evolve the platform. And as you may or may not know, we moved to a 6-year release cadence, and that means
6 months.
6 months.
6 months. Yes, 6 months. We moved from a multi-year release cadence to a 6-month release cadence. So now we have predictable releases. So that's changed. So I'm highlighting just a few things that have changed. And the innovation pipeline for Java is stronger and more robust than it ever has been. So while you get fewer features in each release, you know when that release is coming. It's easier to digest as a developer. And every release, every 6 months, has thousands of bug fixes in it, even if it may have, as Java 21 has 15 new features in it or Java enhancement proposals. It's still a significant release every 6 months that developers and enterprises can rely on. So if you don't know, these are some of the highlighted projects, and we're going to focus on that in Java 21. So this really is where I'm going to kind of transition into the panel part. So while we have the releases every 6 months, we still have name projects in OpenJDK, and a lot of the innovations that go into the platforms every 6 months, not 6 years, come from these projects. So these are some of the key projects, and probably when I ask the panelists to share some of their favorite Java 21 features and how they're planning to adopt them, I'm sure they're going to go into things coming out of these projects or things that will be coming out of these projects soon. So if you want to stay up to date on what's going to be coming next down the pipeline in Java innovations, it's a good idea to follow some of these projects. A lot of the language innovations come out of Project Amber, but Leiden is also one that's becoming really popular. Loom, that's where virtual threads came. We have Valhalla, which is going to be a replacement for JNI, and then ZGC, which has essentially become the default garbage collector. So without further ado, I will stop sharing my screen and I will start introducing our panelists. I know Barry wants me to stop sharing my screen. So I'm going to do that because that's better for the video. Okay, perfect. I was going to have like the icon showing the whole time, but in any case. Okay, so the JCP Executive Committee, we meet 6 times a year now. We meet 2 times face-to-face, and this is our second face-to-face of 2023. We're going to meet tomorrow. BNY Mellon's hosting us again, not only tonight, but tomorrow. So a few of the members are here early for this user group meeting and to talk with all of you. So I thought it would be nice if each of you just take a couple minutes and introduce yourself and your role and how long you've been involved with Java. And then we'll dive into questions about Java 21. So Rodrigo, you want to start with you? Yes,
Sure.
I'm going to pass the mic.
All right. So my name is Rodrigo Graciano. I work here at BNY. I'm one of the reps for BNY at the JCPC. Don, former rep. Where's Chandra? Oh, there, right on time.
Yes.
Right, another, and Sirisha, who couldn't be here with us. He's also a representative. I'm a Java champion. I'm one of the leaders of the Java user group from New York. We're organizing this event. I'm here at BNY Mellon for 4 years, working with Java for too many years to remember. And that's it. What
Okay.
else?
That's
it.
perfect. That's good. Just a short intro.
All right. Hey, hello, everyone. Just a quick show of hands here. So who here is already a Java developer today, right now? Okay, most people. So who's trying to become a Java developer? Few people. That's good. All right. So who here participate on open source projects? Okay, several people. Who'd like to participate on open source project? All right, some other people. That's good. So who here would love to make lots of money as a developer? All right, good. Okay. So you guys in the right place, right? Yeah, Chandra's right there, right? Because that's what we do here at JCP, right? So including making sure that you make lots of money with Java. Because if Java stays relevant, that's exactly our goal here, right? So the JCP through these years, we have worked with the Java team to make Java open source. We have we are actually working with the Java education effort right now to get people into Java, right? And everyone that's already here that's been using Java, you're already part of what we do, right? So my name is Bruno Souza, and I'm known as the guy with the flag. I don't have the flag here today, but I'm known like this. I've been working with Java since 1995, right? An Alpha 2 version. So, and with the JCP, I think I have an interesting story about the JCP, because there was a time that the JCP was not free, and there's a time that JCP individuals could not participate, right? And then just companies. And there was a time that it was not free, and at that time that JCP was not free, I was the only person that paid to be part of the JCP, right? And then JCP is free, so everyone now can participate. That's very good. So thanks very much.
Okay, Alex.
Hey everybody, I'm Alex Belakrilov, and I'm with Java since I joined Sun Microsystems in 2005. And I joined Sun Microsystems as an engineer, and then after 7 years at Sun Microsystems, I moved to product management, and I was the principal product management at Java organization at Oracle afterward. And 6 years ago, we, with my fellow engineers, decided to start Bellsoft. Bellsoft is the one of the leading OpenJDK contributors, by the way. So we are very much involved in Java development, and we are a member of GSPEC. So together we are moving together with Oracle and many other companies. We are moving Java forward, and we are making money out of Java, which is good.
Okay, pass it to Ken, please. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Ken Fogel. I'm a teacher, or a retired teacher, from Montreal, just north of us here. In 1980, I brought home an Apple II computer. I was a graphic artist. I was looking for the best toy out there, and borrowed some money. They were pricey. Brought it home, became obsessed with it. Within a few years, I was working as a freelance developer. In Montreal, everybody was a COBOL developer. They were all university trained. And with the generation of small systems out there, whether it's the IBM PC, the Mac, there wasn't anybody to code them. And so I had a beautiful field all to myself. Did that for 10 years, and then I was invited to join the faculty of Dawson College, another COBOL school, who wanted to get out of COBOL. And they hired me because I didn't know COBOL. I actually taught C and C++. But by 2000, we recognized the writing on the wall. There was no way high school students were going to get excited about learning COBOL. That was gone. So transition. Do we go .NET? Do we go Java? And for us, what drove that decision was the fact that we weren't going to care what computer a student had. Did they have a Mac? Did they have a Windows machine? Did they have a Linux machine? Actually, nobody had Linux machines back then among students. So we went with Java. And although I retired 2 years ago, Java remains the primary language in this program. So Java's been very important in terms of, as we've talked, finding employment for people. And just it's just exciting, you know, especially for me, having come first from C++, which I guess is cool, but it's so sterile. And then there's this beautiful Java with these amazing libraries, whether it's enterprise, GUI. It really was the language for students, for anyone to use. I became involved with the JCP because I started to feel that focus was moving away from education, that a lot of the features in the language were all at the high end, right? Let's see if we can make it more complicated this release, right? That seemed to be a game that was being played. So I started championing things like, let's get rid of main. Needless to say, Brian had some words about that. But this led me to joining the JCP, making the suggestion we have a Java in Education initiative. And that's what brings me here. I want to tell you one quick story before I pass it on, because it's a horror story. We met an educator recently, and the topic of unit testing came up, and they said, oh, it's a graduate level course in one stream in software engineering. This university has 7 programming streams. I said, you don't do unit testing in any of the others? They went, no. These are the kind of things Java and education have to work on.
Okay, Brian.
Thanks, Ken. So I had a whole script prepared, but Ken referenced the Apple II, and so I thought, okay, I gotta go back further then. So I still have my Apple IIe in my basement. I still play with it sometimes. Oh, beautiful. So I'm reminiscing about the time I was back when I was a kid programming in machine language on the Apple IIe. It was wonderful. I actually had a career before I got into programming. I was a lawyer, and in the late 90s, and I had been programming since I was a kid, but never professionally. When I finally made the decision to get out of the law, my first course was in Java at university, and I just fell in love with it. It was amazing. The language is so beautiful, and I associate Java now with like the best decision of my life. So anyways, I actually now am an engineering manager at Microsoft. We build and maintain and extend OpenJDK. I manage the JVM team there. I'm actually the stand-in for my manager, Martin Verberg. He's the actual JCP member. I was prompted as to what my favorite JCP memory was. I guess it's this, because it's my first one. So it's amazing. Thank you all for coming out.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I was also prompted about what my favorite JDK 21
Yeah, you're moving on.
feature was.
Okay, you shine next.
Yeah.
Okay, you
Oh,
shine
okay.
next.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Pass it down. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ishai Galatzer. I work in AWS. My team builds Amazon Corretto. We contribute quite heavily to OpenJDK. There's some cool new features, hopefully coming in soon, like Lilliput, like Generational Shenandoah, but also a lot of contributions to these projects. Overall, my organization does OpenJDK type work, but also Rust type work. These are the 2 main languages we use in Amazon to develop services. And because of that, we're very interested in kind of how the 2 work together, how common libraries work well for Java, how does Java work well with Rust, and in Java about 7 years now. And before that, I've been in part of the .NET team in his area.
Okay, thank you. And Dan?
Hi, I'm Dan Hidinga. I'm another one of these stand-in EC members. Tim Ellison is usually the person representing Red Hat, and I got to fill in today, so excited for that. I've been involved in Java since 2007, actually, when I joined at the time IBM, and I was involved in the OpenJ9 JVM, both working on J9, working on implementing the different specs, and then eventually open sourcing that. I now work at Red Hat, where I work on OpenJDK, mostly day to day, and I'm involved in a number of the different projects. Heather, you mentioned Valhalla earlier, which I'm really excited for because we've been involved in that for so many years, and we're starting to see it get closer and closer to fruition. So hopefully that'll be something we see landing in the near future.
All right, and our last DC member for the panel, Bruno.
Hi, my name is Bruno Caballero.
Second Bruno.
The second Bruno. There is even a third Bruno in the JCP. So, okay, I work for a company called Microdoc, which is perhaps not very known. What we do is we are specialized in custom runtimes. We provide JVMs for the platform that are not the standard. For operating systems that usually are not supported by Java, like QNX, for example, another operating system in the past, or other real-time operating systems, and also hardware architectures that are not standard, or not, at least not common as ARM 64-bit or Intel 64-bits. So this is more or less what I'm specialized, porting JVM. In the last year, we are working a lot with the GraalVM team also as well, native image.
Okay, awesome. Well, so you can see we have lots of different representation on the EC. We're meeting here. You can wait. He'll wait till the end over here. Here, Miro, just stand here. And no, wait, stay there. Okay, now, so that's fine. We're going to keep it over there. Okay. All right. So we have corporations. We have Java user group, individuals. We have 2 individuals. Mira, you can put your bag down if you want. Okay. All right. So we have that representation on the executive committee. We actually have our elections open now. So if you want to participate in the elections, make sure your JCP membership's current. Like Bruno said, you can join. So this is our current EC. We have a few other members who couldn't make it early for the Java user group meeting. But the next thing I want to ask you about, and just to save time with passing down the microphone, I want all the EC members to share what they're most excited about in Java 21. So the release that's going to be coming out next week on Tuesday, which the executive committee just approved. And today the final release of the specification went up, but the official product launch is next Tuesday. So what are you most excited about in terms of the new features, and how is your company going to adopt it, or how are you individually going to adopt it? And then because since we're celebrating the anniversary of the JCP, do you have any favorite JCP related memories, even if it's just a cake?
I mean, I have been in the JCP only for 3 years, and most of the years I have been Corona. Like we're not meeting.
I know, so it's true. Well, you know, we had a virtual game activity.
Yeah.
On
So
Zoom.
probably my favorite was the first one in San Francisco, because it was the first time I met the other people and it was very interesting. So probably the best. About Java 21, I think I have 2 favorite features. The first one is virtual threads, because I mean, we can talk later a little bit more in detail what is the technology. I think it's going to be very used in the future, because it makes the work for the developers much easier to deal with asynchronous tasks.
Yeah, I think Dimitri's going to talk about virtual threads a little bit later. A little bit, yeah.
Probably.
You're lucky you got to go first, because I think that's everyone's favorite.
Yeah, it's everyone's favorite.
So you guys need to get creative now that you know. You can't say virtual threads every time.
And the second one is the simplification of the Java Hello World. There's some name classes and static. I forgot exactly the name of the JEP. I started university around the year 2000, and my first background in programming was C and Pascal. So when I started with Java, I think it was the 3rd course, I say, oh my God, why I need to write so many words to write a hello world? And I remember having this feeling from the moment, and I thought, I don't want to work with Java. And 20 years later, I'm here.
Here you are. We're glad you
But
joined
I
us.
think it's like a barrier. The first day when you start with Java, it's like, oh my God, there are so many keywords that you need to understand. And I think this is a step in the good direction, even if there is a lot of discussion of what it breaks or could break. But I think is making the life easier for the newcomers is a very important thing.
All right, I agree. It's good. Okay, Dan.
So the feature I'm most excited for in JDK 21, I won't say Loom because everyone wants to say Loom, but it's Loom related and it's scoped values. A coworker of mine, Andrew Haley, did a lot of the work on the specification and the implementation of this. And it's a really neat little preview feature in 21. And the idea is that when you're using Loom, back to Loom, thread locals can be expensive. And so we looked at what's another way that you can pass that kind of context information around without having to pass it through all the parameter lists of all the methods that you want to call to get it from here to there. And how would we redesign thread locals if we had to do it today? And I think scoped values does a really nice job of solving a problem that we haven't quite hammered into yet, but that we're anticipating is going to be a problem when we start to see major Loom adoption. So it's really neat to see how we're both adding the big features and the pieces that are needed to really sort of smooth the adoption curve on it. And in terms of favorite JCP memories, it's neat to see that the spec was just approved for Java 21. My favorite JCP memory is actually seeing the Java 7 spec get approved. Because back then I was involved in the JSR 292 working on method handles and invoke dynamic. And that was the first sort of major feature that I worked on in the JVM. And then to get to be involved in that expert group and work on that spec and then finally see it come all the way through the process was really interesting.
Cool, thank you.
Sorry, Heather.
Yes,
I'm going to embarrass you a little bit.
Oh, does this involve me? Okay.
So this is my first time in the JCP. I'm standing in for Volker Simonis, who's been much longer than me, but couldn't make it today.
Well, it's great to have you.
Thank you. And since this is my first meeting, I mean, I like you all, but my memory would be 7 years ago. So when I started in Amazon, I went to DevOps US. That was really cool to go to DevOps in
the US,
San Jose.
Yeah, one time only.
Right, one time only. And they said, you got to meet this really cool person. I think Gil Tanner said, go meet this really cool person. She came out to meet me at lunch. And I'm like, what is this JCP thing? And she was so welcoming. So I was thinking hard about what could it be? And that was clearly it. So thank you.
Thank you.
I know I'm not supposed to say Loom, but I'm going to say it anyways. So, you're all developers. We all tend to be very skeptical people. And looking at Loom, I've been skeptical. I'm like, is it really going to be that good? And we did a bunch of trials with Java 20, early version of Java 21, and we haven't seen a thing. And I was very disappointed. But on Friday, this one developer pops into my office from one of our big service teams. And he's like, look, these are Loom results. I'm like, what? That looks amazing. And what we're able to do in one of the services, we're able to eke out 4 times the throughput at a very similar latency. Something we didn't even expect would happen with Loom. That makes me really, really excited. I don't think we're ready yet to jump on it. We're in production tomorrow. But that's a huge promise. It's bigger than anything I've ever seen come out in Java to really change around what we can get out of the system. Remember, we run the cloud. Like the amount of electricity that gets poured into these machines is amazing. The carbon footprint we emit because of it is high. Loom is going to make a big difference. I'm super excited about that. That's my first feature. Second feature is FFI. Like I said, we're building a lot of stuff in Rust. And it turns out that some of our libraries, like our crypto libraries, are super critical. It takes months and months to get them just right, to validate them, to certify them with the government. It's a hell of a lot of work. We can't afford, and we shouldn't be building them in both Rust and Java and whatever other language we use. So we build this common core library, and then we have to integrate with Java. And JNI has been, really painful. Really, really painful. So we've been building a product in Rust called Duchess. And Duchess is a way to integrate Rust to Java, Java to Rust. And FFI is just going to make that a whole lot simpler, a whole lot less mistakes, a whole lot less issues. Super duper excited.
All right, well, thanks for saying that. So yeah, I like your answer though, because you added what's unique, why it's favorite for you at Amazon, what you're getting out of it. And that's perfect for us to share with each other. So Brian, if you have something.
I'm going to say Loom as well.
And
I'm also going to steal Bruno's second one as well.
What's Microsoft doing?
Yeah, I'll add some detail here. So yeah, no, we're looking forward to seeing what customers in the Java ecosystem overall do when Loom's released. And have the ability to use lightweight concurrency via virtual threads. One of my favorite talks actually at JVM LS this summer was by Ron Pressler, and he did a really deep dive into how they implemented continuations in Loom. Fascinating talk. It's on YouTube if you're interested. And there's actually a limitation with Loom. I'm going to talk about this, where a virtual thread that actually locks on a monitor gets pinned to the carrier thread. And so that's actually a limitation that Oracle is working to remove. And I'm happy to say that Microsoft is actually supporting that and actually helping with that implementation. So I have a couple of engineers working with Oracle folks on trying to lift that limitation, which will really unlock the full power of Loom. The second feature I'm looking forward to, and maybe Ken, I have you to thank for this as well, is the unnamed classes and instance main methods. So my daughter's in university, and she took her first Java course last year after having taken a Python course. Python, she just started writing code, right? And in Java, she comes to me and she's saying, I've got to write, I got to create a class. What does public static mean? Why do I need to do this, right? And so I saw firsthand that there's a bit of friction. You can argue how big the friction is, but for some people there is friction, especially new programmers. And I'm happy to see that that friction is going to be lessened starting with the preview of that feature in JDK 21.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
My JCP memory, Heather had suggested that I could say something like getting elected. That was a good memory. I said, gee, why don't I just put it out there? And so that was exciting. Another thing that I found really cool about the JCP, we receive all these, JEPs or JSRs that are, they've gone through amazing amount of work to bring them, and we're kind of like the last step. And most of the time, you realize that before you question any of this, think about what went into it. Are you really in a position to say, in this little corner here, you've made a mistake? But I did that once. And a very simple thing, I wanted to know why a particular item had been on the table for almost 20 years and still wasn't finished. Now, it doesn't matter what it was, but what was exciting was I suddenly get all these reports. People were giving me really good reasons why they haven't been able to finish this, why they want to continue doing this. And it certainly made them think about what they were doing. So I felt I had some little influence. So there's my JCP memory. I'm going to look at something different. Everybody's talking about Loom and all that stuff. To me, it's the new pattern matching switch. So one of my favorite languages remains Visual Basic 6. Not .NET, not anything before, Visual Basic 6. I made a bit of money coding in Visual Basic 6. And what I loved was their select case, because their cases were effectively if statements, right? You can do if, or case, is, case greater than, and, or, and build up really complex systems. It's still in the language. It's still in .NET. It's used primarily in GUIs. And so when I saw pattern matching, and at first I went, oh, gee, case integer. Okay, so it can figure out what the data type is. But then there was this nice little word called when, and then let's go to town. I is greater than 6 and I is less. You could do ranges. You could do tests in the single case. And in my mind, with that, along with the switch expression, the switch statement, I cannot imagine why anyone would ever use the C-style switch anymore. So that was a big one for me. Certainly the, paving the on-ramp, the simplification. Some of you may know me as an anti-hello world person. right? I don't think any of you ever got a job writing hello world, right? Because I know we all learn it. You know, I'm the person who puts 3 lines in main and then calls a method right away in the object, right? Let's get out of main. If we're going to teach object-oriented programming, that's what I want to do. But I also recognize that that object decoration just detracts from understanding the syntax of the language. And so these nameless classes, the simplified main, I believe the next preview will finally get rid of system.out. Why? You know, people say, oh, well, if you put the right import up there, it'll get rid of it. No, just get rid of it. So that's exciting. And the last thing I'll mention, it's mentioned before, the foreign memory. You know, I've done some work with visual recognition that Frank and Zoran put together, and it's really exciting. But I've recognized that Python seems to be eating the AI space, not because it's better, worse, simply because it connects with C libraries so much easier. And this foreign memory model is going to change that we're going to start seeing Java as a front end to a lot of AI and machine learning systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. GCP 25 years. It's quite a long time for any organization in the world. And the most memorable events of the GCP, it's of course the GCP parties at Java 1. Null pointers, concerts, and all that fun there. I was very like I was waiting for that. Then I was visiting Java 1 because it was the event of the Java 1, not like the big concert after that, the GCP parties. But yeah, to be serious, I think we have a very we have a big community of OpenJDK contributors now, and the rules what set for all the things here is GCP. GCP is kind of a framework settings for all the OpenJDK, Java, the standard and everything. And we have a very important event in the GCP every 6 months now. Is the release of the GSR for JavaSIG, from the new version of JavaSIG. So yeah, I think we have a pretty frequently very important and bright event in GCP now. And for Java 21, every Java release has a very anticipated feature, and of course the Java 21 has one, which is the virtual threads, obviously. However, I would like to talk about the importance of the security features, the security feature which will be released in Java 21 very soon. It's obvious then there are 2 persons and they are communicating in the internet, and they could communicate to each other securely, even without having meeting each other in advance. This magic happens by the shared keys, and the shared keys algorithms based on the complex mathematical problems. And these complex mathematical problems now can be potentially pretty efficiently solved by quantum computers. Quantum computers is this like copper tubes and glass things which looks like a distillers. They potentially could break the security of the whole communication in the world. And the JSR 45052 brings key encapsulation mechanisms which will help us to keep the security of the communication going forward in the post-quantum computer era. So this new API will, like the Java was secured, one of the most secure technologies, Java is one of the most secure technologies, and these new features which added today will make Java the most secure technologies in the future, in the post-quantum computation era. And how are we going to use the new features? It's virtual threads, obviously. You can see my socks. It should remind you something. So we are in a very close collaboration with VMware, with Spring Framework team, and like if anybody, maybe not everybody know that Bellsoft produced Liberica JDK, is open JDK distribution, and this distribution used by a Spring team. So Spring team benefits out of the virtual threads very much, and they already implemented that in Spring 6, and Spring 6.1 will improve that. So yeah, I think the virtual threads will bring lots of benefits in many areas of the Java frameworks, and many Java frameworks will benefit out of that.
Okay, thank you. And a
Thank you.
different perspective as well to the virtual thread. So thanks for sharing that, Bruno.
All right, so I'm not going to be very creative here, and I represent Java, the Brazilian Java User Society in the JCP, and once Heather asked, first to name a feature, I asked the director of the group, so I can't change it, right? So they did choose virtual threads, so that's it, right? So that's and we have many companies and user groups that participate in our, and individuals that participate in our user groups. So it's hard to say when each one of those people are going to actually implement anything. But I have a second best feature, but I'm going to leave this for last. In terms of the story, we've been in the JCP for a long time and have lots and lots of good memories. The parties were awesome, right? The new pointers are awesome too. And I think that when Java won one of the JCP awards, right? We had lots of people from Brazil there. It was really good. The time that the JCP came to Brazil and we had one meeting there, was awesome. We actually had a meeting in 2 different cities. It was really nice. But there's a story that maybe not lots of people don't know. Maybe even Heather doesn't know that. But we almost got arrested at at a JCP party, right? So there's one of the JCP parties. I brought a bottle of cachaça, right, from Brazil, and I said, let's serve cachaça here, right, during the JCP party. But we were inside a bar, and I did not know that that was not allowed here in the U.S. to serve alcohol inside a bar. I mean, how could that not be possible, right? And so we were serving cachaça to a lot of people, and at some point the owner of the bar saw what we were doing and called the cops, and we got just scolded a little bit, and I think we did not spoil the party. At least no one else saw that, but that's a memory that I have to keep with me forever, right? But anyway, getting back to the best feature, because we are Java as a group, and we leave on this here, right? That's what we do. We're here in person. I mean, I know there are some virtual user groups, and the pandemic allow us to do something that is virtual, but as the guys here know very well, that doesn't work so well, right? And even the JCP, right? Not meeting people, not seeing people eye to eye, not having discussions, not going out for dinner. It's really hard, right? So for me, the best feature of Java 21 is actually the timing that's coming out, right? Because I tried to visit lots of user groups in the US last year, and I totally failed because there's no one back, right? And I tried to do again in Brazil early this year, and same thing. It was not very good. And so I did a tour around Europe in the middle of this year, and there was lots of user groups were back. I was actually able to visit 10 countries and visit 13 different user groups. It was really good. And now I can see you guys here, right? So exactly the moment that Java 21 comes out, we're all back, or we're coming back to visit user groups, to meet in person. And I think that's going to make all the difference, right? I think that Java 21 is going to be remembered as a great feature, not only because of virtual threads, right? But because we're going to be back and we're going to be using Java 21 because we're going to be able to see eye to eye and work together to make things happen.
Awesome.
Right. JCP memory. I really don't have one. I just joined the JCP like 2-3 months ago. So yeah, that's
Right now, I
probably
told you you're on
right.
a
This is my best
panel,
memory.
and there you go.
Java 21. I have two things to mention. Java 21. First one I already mentioned, the unnamed classes, and I think that's very good. It's gonna help us bring developers, more junior developers, and make it easier for them to start with Java. So every effort that's being done to make Java easier for newcomers, I think that's very valid and very important for the language. My wife is transitioning careers. She wants to start coding. She said, "Oh, you're coding all the day. You stay there, sitting is easy." I said, "Yeah, all right." And then she started trying it out. And she said, "Why do I need this public? What is this static? Why can I just put a line there and start working with it?" And I said, "Yeah, all right. So wait, Java 21 is gonna change that." Right, but it's a lot of things to overcome for some first time looking at Java. The second one, and I hope for those who work here and watch out my talk with Chandra, yeah. So my second feature is record patterns that's coming on Java 21. Right. So what does that mean? So you have your switch statement. So remember that before we need to have if instance of person, and then you need to explicitly cast and things like this. All right, so this with the switch expressions were edge changed, right? We don't need explicit cast, but you can deconstruct the record right away. So if you have a property from the pattern, from the record, you don't need to say, if O is an instance of record R, you can already declare the properties of that is and use on the next line. You don't need to say, get this property. Records don't have get, but access the property on the next line. You can do right in one line, you can access this information. That's another thing that's being done to make Java easier, learn more readable, and easier to write code. So I think that's a very good feature.
Okay. Thank you to giving me opportunity to be the last and taking all the features I had in mind. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I started with JCP memory. For me, I think it began like more than 20 years ago at Sun when I joined Sun, and I connected with wonderful people like Bruno and everything. I fell in love in Java and all the development. So the Java brings everything from mathematics, probability, everything is inside. So, and then it allowed me also to become the JCP member. And for me, it was a gift because I had the time allocated to read all specifications of the new features. So that helped me. Also, what also inspired me while I was writing a book, because I felt like Java 21, I thought it would be one before 20, but some features didn't make it through. So right now it's Java 21. It comes with functional programming features that are actually required for today's business. I'm working for kind of small consultancy company, Open Value, and most of the time when I really handle dealing with the code written in Kotlin or Scala, and right now I'm missing those features to be activated in Java. So actually the decision to use the Scala or Kotlin is because Java was missing those features in order to apply the functional programming patterns, right? And those, I mean, switch case, pattern matching, also unnamed patterns, are coming right now in Java 21. And for me, it will be like a milestone in development that community was calling. And one of those is also foreign memory, because I really love as my hobby to work with the hardware and building up robots or playing with some kind of hardware starter sensors, lidar scanner, and everything connected with Java. And I found out that actually the Java I had this talk like 20 years ago about the performance of the garbage collections and the languages that are based on the JVM virtual machines. They are faster and center particular task than the C code can be. So this is what it's exciting to have it. I thought that the foreign memory will make it to the Java 21, but it didn't. Hopefully it's coming soon to be official. And the other thing is, for me, the Java 21, as I said, it makes my job easier, and it makes also the job of many developers way easier, and also helps to communicate the design patterns, which was kind of in the past really difficult to explain to developers why you should do that like this. And those functional features that are coming into Java 21 make our life way easier. And thank you for it.
All right, thank you. Thanks to all of our EC members for being on the panel. And you kind of teed us up for Dimitri. So I met Dimitri, well, I've known him already, but I saw him last month in Santa Clara at the JVMLS. And I said, we're doing the Java user group meeting and we're gonna have a panel and I want a deep dive on, give us, a little more details on what's in Java 21. And Dimitri volunteered to do that for us. So he's here today, Alex's colleague, and with Bellsoft. And my EC members are excused, yes. And don't leave, because as soon as we're done with Dimitri's talk, which is going to give you a little bit of a better idea about these new features in 21, we're going to do cake and t-shirts, which are behind me. But I'm going to go sit down to get out of your way.
All right, it looks like our Zoom participants are getting some advantage because they won't see all that Zoom controls. Oh, they will see black boxes. I don't know. What do you see? Zoom people. All right. I hear no response. That's good. So the hard topic today, to tell about Java 21 in 21 minutes or so, maybe in 20 minutes. But I'm in favor. I'm the only one on the stage right now, so I can join the previous participants and to say a few words about my own impressions. Yes, I remember a JCP meeting in San Francisco before COVID. That was a great event. And I will mention my favorite feature in just a few slides. So here, anyone is familiar with tarot cards? Everyone, yeah. So it's probably the easiest way to predict our future, right? No, but well, some people do that. They try to predict future. And with Java, it's so easy to predict your future. You just look to the list of preview features and incubator APIs, and you know the future, you know what will happen in upcoming releases. So that's cool. And we are going to discuss some features today, only a very, very brief recap of what's going in 6 days, and also some introduction. Yeah, that's me. You see my photo, and I contribute in OpenJDK. And I also speak on conferences, different ones, which made me to see more than 20 countries in last 5 years. That's thank you, Java. And I worked at a company named Bellsoft, just like Alex. And we participate in open source projects, and that's the business model of Bellsoft. Alex will talk about that on tomorrow on JCP meeting. I'm not sure if it will be recorded or not, but that's an interesting material, how it really both helps participants and the community. And we release open source based products, our own Linux, our OpenJDK binary, which is called Liberica, which is the default JDK for your Spring Boot containers. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. And also Liberica native image kit. And we do some other stuff. Like, for example, we release and support JetBrains runtime that you run to power up your IDEs. And that's a typical picture for contributions. I think we will see an official picture when Java 21 will be released for this release, but few other releases were summarized previously, and you see what Belsov does here. And one of the important points about Java 21 is that, as far as I know, all companies that provide long-term support for their Java distributions agreed that Java 21 will be a long-term support release, because there's no such thing in OpenJDK as long-term support release. There are update release projects, and there are releases, Java versions. But vendors provide you some support. Here's just, yes, of course. You saw that picture, right? Please attention to that red box. Okay. So Java 21. You see that asterisk here after the features word. Why is it so? Because here on this slide, from top to the bottom, the listed things, listed items are JEPs, big features. For example, my favorite feature, besides of Loom, of course, is not listed here. And that's a feature that really makes Java the modern language. Any guesses? What the language of today must be able to do? It must be able to check if the symbol is an emoji. So emoji support is in Java 21. Hooray! That's, I'm not sure about Python. Maybe they need some pep for it. I don't know. Okay, so we are short of time. So I will only mention finalized features. Many features mentioned on the panel were among preview features. So it really, in production, some people do use preview features. I know such people, but they are minority, to be honest, right? So we are interested in really in new features that are production ready, right? Not they don't require any flags to enable or whatever. So obviously, the major one. After several previews, we now have virtual threads. What's the point here? As you already heard, we have resources that we can scale, CPUs. We now work on multi-core CPUs that have a lot of cores. Like in Amazon, you can get Graviton with dozens of CPUs. The resource we can't scale is time. And imagine your application is wasting time in synchronization or waiting in your parallel threads. And you can't struggle with it if you use platform threads for your work. And that's a solution. And the last point here probably is the major. So you can get millions of threads, and you can have thread per request model resurrected after it being blamed for many years. Like for all of my career, I remember it being blamed. Hey, we need thread pooling because otherwise our server will die in a minute, right? That was always the case. I remember the very first web server I met, that was Tomcat on Windows. Hey, why don't you need that constant 20 or 4? That's the size of the thread pool. That's important. We don't need that anymore. That's it. We don't change our applications, and we get scaling. So Ron's talk was already mentioned. That's really great. I also recommend to listen it if you're interested in implementation details. What's also interesting, that's implementation in one virtual machine. So other virtual machines have their own implementations. And they have pros and cons, and they have different requirements. And what happens under the hood is that you must have a mechanism inside your JVM and your Plus library as well to migrate your working set, your data, your stack between real memory of platform threads and actually Java heap. And that's a complicated task. That really took a lot of time to implement and to make it effective. Another part of it is supporting standard library, so that all the place where we have blocking with logs or IO, so they now invoke that yield functionality, the poke that continuation mechanics. So your legacy code that works with standard library will work great in virtual threads. And if you write new code, think of this mechanism as a helper again if your code is going to stuck within some synchronization or some IO, right? It has no sense. It makes no sense to apply this for code that does real some CPU hard calculations. The last thing here is observability. That's a practical aspect in working with virtual threads. It's still a bit complicated, and I would say that it probably requires some more work. Because imagine that virtual threads could be on par with platform threads in all monitoring tools. And you've got millions of such threads. That's literally impossible to analyze, right? So now there are tools to see it in a structured way and to regulate it a bit. Well, another point here is how we get that support for free. That's the best scenario, of course. We have our legacy code. We just update our libraries. We update our frameworks, our application servers, and major ones already have guides and they have implemented support for virtual threads. So you keep your simple and blocking code, imperative, so writing asynchronous code is complicated. It could give you a better result if you really need to utilize your resources in a most effective way. You can write it by your own, and it will probably be more effective when alone, but it would be almost impossible to debug because all that asynchronous code with lost parts of stack traces because of all that lambdas executing in different threads, it's just complex. And you take your straightforward, not asynchronous, synchronous code, and you move it to a new platform. That's a benefit. And as I mentioned, different VMs have different implementations. So the trivial part is code. We can now create a virtual thread in the same way as we can create a platform thread. That's really easy. And an easy way to try virtual threads in general in your application is when you have certain thread pools. You can just replace the thread pools or that executors with this new executor, virtual thread per task executor. Right? That's a typical design. You declare your thread pools separately, so you can change that declaration. And your tasks will be executed in virtual threads. That's it. Oh, by the way, if you have any corrections, please say that. Because I know in this room there are many people, I know that, who can correct me. I may be wrong. Or my examples can be not compilable. No worries. So, the second big picture, ZGC, generational ZGC. Who is aware of generational garbage collectors? Yeah, right, because many collectors we already work with are generational, obviously, like parallel GC, serial GC, G1 GC, and also now generational Shenandoah. Well, all they exploit the same hypothesis, like big generational hypothesis, that most of objects die young. Why ZGC wasn't generational from the very beginning, from the start? Because it solved a different problem. To build a low latency GC, which will provide you sub-millisecond pauses, probably at the cost of higher memory consumption. Not an issue if you consume a lot of memory, but you have very short pauses. Well, now it's time to provide an option to have both short pauses and lower memory consumption. That's the idea behind generational ZGC. Here, collecting more objects in young generation, that part really takes resources. We typically allocate much more young objects that also die young. And we less frequently need to collect the old generation. And it's easy to turn on. You just provide an additional flag. And by the way, some other changes in JDK 21 are related to garbage collection that are also my favorite, like less configuration for garbage collectors and improved performance. But yeah, not mentioning it because they're not a separate chapter. APIs. Really intrusive change in the API is sequence collection. The trivial idea is that, well, there are different functions to access the last element in different collections. Let's make it a unified API. Led to a breaking change. Picture by Stuart Marks. So the class hierarchy in collections framework has changed. That means, in particular, that some libraries that rely on previous version of this hierarchy may break. So be careful with what libraries support Java 21 if some libraries really rely on that. So few extra interfaces were added, marked in green, and they got some useful methods. Like some data structures can be reversed, so you can traverse them from the end to beginning, because we know that they have an order. And we can access first and last elements, and also first and last entries, if we talk about maps, not listed here, but kind of trivial changes, but again, very intrusive. Another point in API that has changed, that Alex mentioned, is support for KAMs. So the concept and the RFC about that were around for quite some time. But that was a part missing in OpenJDK. And the driving point, as far as I understand it, is to make it a pluggable solution. So you could bring a service provider, some implementation, and have it being picked up, for example, in TLS. So you could securely exchange keys. And that's a slightly modified example from the job description. So here we use that public keys and symmetric keys. Yeah, you can sit closer or come closer. Yeah, Zoom people, you're happy. A lot of code. So basically, we come to the point where both sender and receiver have the same secret key, and that was secretly shared. So magic now happens, and that's a standardized thing. You could already implement that ad hoc in your algorithms in your crypto exchange, right? But having it in a standard API has many pros. Now we get to some language changes. Yes, complex switches in BASIC are very cool. And now we can write when clause in case bits in Java, in switch statements. And we can also distract records. That's so cool. We have built some data and now we destroy it or tear it to some pieces. That's pleasant, at least for me. And it's implemented for several applications, for several places in language, for switch cases and for instance of, and we'll see only some examples, very basic ones, right? So I'm not going to show everything that's there for seal classes and when clause, just a very simple thing. First one, we can destructure all the center of a circle. And by the way, here are types of coordinate variables for that circle. The types are inferred. So for int, that makes no sense because 3 letters for int and 3 letters for var. But for more complex types, you will be happy to have a shorter code here. And the second one is where we have all that patterns in case clauses, where we can say, okay, let this pattern be an integer I, and in case it's integer I, let's use I as an integer. Well, I'm not sure how long we will still be using box types. By the way, do you know that you should no longer use box type constructors in Java? That's a different language, not a language of my youth. Okay, and one of the features that's not final yet, but that has been mentioned today, is that we can write a simple Java program without saying public, static, void, and without declaring a class. That's a lie, because we still have a class here, and we still have all the attributes here, and people who write that code at some point will have to learn it, and that will be a strike. Okay, I don't know what to do with this strike notes. Yeah. All right, so we now know that we are going to have another Java release in less than a week. It is a long-term supported release, whatever it means. We saw some great features that differ with this release from Java 20. But remember that previous LTS release was Java 17. And if we imagine all the features that are new since Java 17, that's a huge leap. Some of enhancements were backported to 17U, like JVM enhancements, and they still are being backported, but I wouldn't, rely on that much. By the way, for all the releases and for all the LTS releases, there's an interesting approach that we implemented recently. Like we provided and we created a performance edition for Liberica that includes JVM from 17, but the overall JDK is JDK 11. That's also possible. Yeah. And that's one of migration strategies. So you can try new JVMs with an older JDK and then try to switch to all new language features as well. Yes, another thing not mentioned in great details here is that stuff is being removed from JDK. Like JNI support becomes disabled by default in future releases. Not sure about 21, but it's what's happening right now. Finalization has been deprecated. Don't use finalizers anymore, and all the things. That's a different Java, so please just check not Java 21, but all the differences between last version that you use and the newest one. Thank you.
Thanks, Dimitri. Really great overview. You did it in record time. Thank you. So the other thing you can do as well, to keep up with the releases is take advantage of the early access builds. So all of you, if you're not aware of that, every 2 weeks there's a new early access build put out on OpenJDK. And also if you go to the page for each platform as it's being put into work, and as people in OpenJDK are working on it, it'll tell you what JEPs are targeted for the next release. So that's already up for 22. And in addition, the JEPs cover deprecation. So just to Dimitri's point. So thanks again to Dimitri and to all of the EC members who participated on the panel. I really appreciate you. And if you're on the live stream, we're about to turn off the live stream, but I'll tell you, this is our first Java user group celebration for the 25-year anniversary of the JCP. But we're going to give all of you on the live stream an opportunity to order your own kits to have your own celebrations. So we're going to turn off the live stream, and then we're going to continue with our celebrations here. So I'll take a pause while you do that, Barry. And I want to thank the New York SIG and the New Jersey Garden State user group for hosting us here tonight.
Thank you.